I guess, yeah, maybe I am just old fuddy.
No,
get off my lawn.
Don't you dare. Havok, sir, don't you dare feel like you are perpetuating any stereotype about what I literally just made a point about. No, sir, you're right. Your music is the best music. And these goddamn kids aren't even, they don't even play instruments anymore, Havok. They don't even play their own instruments anymore.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Space Tomatoes podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Havok.
I'm LX. Hello. Welcome back. All that stuff.
And today we have a special guest with us, Spiffy, Sean Stiles. Welcome to the show.
Good to be here.
Super special.
Well,
how's it going?
My mom says I'm special, so I think that counts. Guys, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. It's been an interesting scheduling adventure and everything else, but hey, we got it all figured out, and here we are.
Listen, the modern day Renaissance man that I am, I'm a mover and a shaker, an international superstar. The fact that you guys are doing such a great job that I was able to carve out this time as a priority for me is a testament to the amazing work that you gentlemen do. I'm kidding. Mostly I had to wake up at the crack of 5 o'clock in the afternoon and remember that this was on my schedule today. That's
awesome. At least you remembered. That's the best part, right?
I mean, barely. I mean, like you said, like we kind of went back and forth where like I'm new to the the guesting stuff where trying to kind of keep all of that together amongst the other various hats that I wear as the modern day Renaissance man. Sometimes I get lost. No, not with this hair. I don't, but I would. I mean, technically.
Nice. So you pro wrestling, a band, cover band? Is that how an accurate description or?
Yes. I mean, I say it like this, like, so a lot of my, my kind of overarching philosophy, for the evolution of my life and kind of the, again, the various, kind of hats that I wear, I've always kind of subscribed to one sort of overarching like commandment or my business book. If you want to read it, it's great. It's on Amazon. You not really. Have I told you about my supplements? Like, this hair I wear. I mean, let me tell you.
Everybody has something to sell.
It's always just shilling the entire time I'm on your show, like just a paid advertisement. No, but like so I learned. So I'm just old enough. We were talking a little bit kind of before the show about being an elder millennial, and I was excited that I've got my background, and we talked a little Star Trek in the pre-record, and then saw LX's backdrop, which is literally I right away, like, if you're a man of a certain age, you know exactly what those things are behind him, and right away I was like, oh my gosh, like I just started. I just played through the Final Fantasy 16 demo and love it, but I'm an OG guy. Like going through 7, like we could do the, listen, this is my first ADHD segue of the entire podcast, and there will be a few.
Good.
This is the Tifa versus like Lara Croft argument as far as like my type of girl, as far as video game chicks that I might leave my wife for. And I mean, I'm Team Tifa. I mean, you have to be. I mean, good Lord. I have a type.
What was the question?
I went through the Lara Croft thing for a while. My wife got me the calendar and all that stuff back in the day. She had, she was a little bit more pointier back then.
Well,
right.
Listen, that was they wore those bras. That weren't as flattering back in the 50s and 60s. If you look at the old Sears catalog.
I literally just yesterday booted up Quake, the original Quake, and played through it. And they now NVIDIA has released their little RTX modeler where you can go in and actually implement some better.
That was one of the original engines, wasn't it? Like Quake was the one, back in the day. Yeah.
Yep. Pre Unreal. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was one of my favorite games, man. That thing was just badass back then.
What was the very first thing? Like Doom?
Wolfenstein.
So, Wolfenstein 3. I was going to say, good Lord, I can't believe this.
Duke Nukem, maybe?
No,
Duke
it was
Nukem.
Castle Wolfenstein.
I never played any of that stuff.
Really?
It was all computer guys.
Yeah, that's true. It was all the computer nerds.
Had to do
parties.
Blow off the cartridge, and, stick it in there and hope it works, and try it a few more times.
We used to literally. I worked for a DoD company at the time, and we used to literally bring in our systems on Friday, and after work shut down, we'd plug in and have LAN parties in the office. It was hilarious.
I again, as an elder, I remember LAN parties. I remember when that was a thing where, and this is back in the day, LAN parties too. People listening, this is not like I've got this really sweet gaming laptop, and this is guys lumbering around with old school CRT monitors and a big ass hard drive tower and setting up and running cables. It's not, we'll just do it over Wi-Fi. And no, you had to be in the room. I'm trying to explain what a LAN party is to anybody under the age of 112 that might be listening to this. You used to have to show up and plug things in, and it was a simpler time, but
it was certainly a simpler time, but man, there was something to those things,
Well, it's one of the things that you talk about, how sort of, and people say disconnected now, but people communicate differently than they did, obviously, back when we were teenagers and stuff, which thankfully, because I'd be in jail still, probably.
Yeah.
And most people in their 40s that were of the generation that we grew up without, cell phones and cameras in our faces, and the internet was a new thing to where we are now, where, literally everything you do is broadcast, not just this, but
Yeah, no, I always say I'm really, really, really fortunate that cameras weren't something people just had on them at all times back in the day.
I mean, Havok, I'm not going to lie, you more than probably me and LX, as far as people that probably should be in jail for our past transgressions. And I say that with all respect, because I was a rotten kid, not a bad way. I was just, I was ADHD before ADHD was cool. You know what I mean? I'm just old enough to have gone to school where nuns could still hit you and stuff like that when you were just a obnoxious kid. Now you can't do any of that stuff, but but that was the 80s, and I fancy myself a 90s kid, as the original question I think was about music at some point. But yeah, one of the band thing I did is to the overarching thing is find something you love to do. That's chapter 1 of my business book, by the way, to actually get back to what I guess at some point we talked about. But my book is find something you love to do. And then chapter 2 is find a way to get paid for that thing. And that has been pretty much my business philosophy since I was a recent college graduate. In 2006, I got a great job doing mortgages and finance, and I was crushing it out of school. And then those of us remember in 2008, everything just stopped as far as businesses, and there was a mortgage bubble, and the financial industry pretty much went away. And I went to work one day as young hotshot top sales guy for this nice company that I worked for, and the doors were locked through, obviously, at that point, no fault of my own. But the takeaway I had back then was I'm never going to work for anybody ever again. And the reason is because they can take it away from you. Again, no fault of my own. Like I'm first of all, I'm great at getting myself in trouble or getting myself fired. I don't need that additional layer of, challenge on top of my stupid mouth. So, and that's where the band came from originally. This was supposed to be a way to get free drinks and meet girls. This was never like, there was no business plan to be like, I'm gonna go to school forever and get be working on my PhD, and then decide, that's enough student loans. Let's just go ahead and drink Jaeger bombs and sing Jesse's Girl for a living instead. But here we are.
Hey, why not?
I mean, if you can do it. I mean, that's part of the, you have to, there's a lot of trust you have to have in yourself. And I understand a lot of people, like a 9-to-5er, a ham and egger, if you will, as a shout out to my wrestling guru, Bobby the Brain Heenan. Like, if you're a 9-to-5 guy, there's nothing wrong with that. Listen, I know people that when they were 12 years old knew that they wanted to be a teacher or a lawyer or whatever like that. And God bless those people. Seriously. I still have no idea what I want to be when I grow up. And that's okay too. And that's a large part of, of my podcast journey and me just trying to explain that to other people where, now you don't have that. We're not in a society anymore that you get done with school, you go get a job, you put your head down and shut up and work for 25 years and get your watch and go home. It's just, that's not where we are anymore. And that's okay too. But, but the times, they are a-changing.
You get any suggestions for people that, like, maybe looking for something that they want to do, but they hate everything? Not saying that I know anybody like that. You have done your homework on me.
Yes.
I'm talking about myself.
Is it really the hate everything thing, or is it just hating the people that come around because of it?
I don't know. I mean, I'm good at several things. I don't enjoy doing any of them. Yeah, and interacting with people, because I did take an online quiz once about, possible career choices, and it came back with a big fat 0 because, like, I can't interact with people, so customer service is like right off the table. That takes a few things right off.
Alex, I don't know if you know this, but you literally have a podcast where you talk to people every week. I hope I'm not like,
there's a funny thing about
I don't want to drop that bomb on you this early in the show, but I'm pretty sure that
you weren't supposed to tell him. He doesn't know.
Listen,
No, when Havok came to me with this idea, it's weird because I told him, like, I hate podcasts. I don't enjoy listening to them, and I don't understand why people listen. Like, why would somebody want to listen to a couple, people like us talk about absolutely nothing? I don't get it, but hey.
No, trust me. I am very much having that. I'm having that same internal monologue right now of like, why would anybody want to deal with any of us? But, but like they do. And that's the thing. It's a little bit different, LX, because so for me personally, like I'm called an ambivert. So I am a very introverted person in quote unquote real life, but I have a very extroverted job. And a lot of that is, not to get too like laying on a therapist couch about it, but like a lot of that is like, I'm a people pleaser. So like, even though I don't like most people, I still seek that approval and validation and, hey, people dig me, or, hey, you did a good job. So the reason I'm such a workaholic, or the reason I do so many different things, is because I have different opportunities to, for me, also being a little bit of a cynic now as I get older and realize that most people suck, which is fine. Thanks for listening. people, but also there's a better than 50-50 chance that you probably suck. But please like and subscribe. But that's the dichotomy, right? That's sort of the world that we're trying to like navigate, where it's like, well, most of you I don't want to deal with, but also please listen to my nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a bit of that goes on, I suppose, right? I enjoy it. I have fun doing it. My career is largely it's similar to yours in nature, in that my take, like I live on a little farm away from people.
And you sell your feet on OnlyFans?
How'd you know?
You said it was just like me. I didn't know how much research you guys did.
See,
that's how we met, actually.
No, but like I can literally sit here and not leave the property for months, and I'm happy doing that.
I mean,
but my job puts me in front of people frequently.
What, this job or?
No,
I always love when people say, and not to cut you off, I will do that. The ADHD, so people all the time are like, "Well, what's your real job?" Like, it's one of my favorite questions. I'm like, well, this is my real job. Like, find a way to do something that you love, and then find a way to get paid for it. That's the book, guys. So every time I have a bad day at work, a bad show, or a guy yelling Freebird at me for 3 hours straight on stage that you have to just like deal with, and for some reason that guy comes to all of my shows. Thank you for your support. Shut up. But like,
I might feel bad for doing that to somebody.
Listen, I'm glad you show up, man. Thank you again. Thank you for supporting entertainers and the arts and stuff. But like every time I have like that kind of day, or I have a bad travel day, I remind myself that I could be waking up at 7:00 in the morning and putting on a shirt and tie and going to sit in a cubicle at a job that I hate, like a lot of people do. And then it's a little bit better. I like this because it helps me maintain that sort of perspective on, like, yeah, people are terrible sometimes, but also this is pretty nice comparatively to a lot of people that don't like their jobs at all. Like, I love this mostly.
I mean, I say people are terrible until I actually meet them, and then I'm usually, then I have more friends. That's a whole other thing. And, I always say I got enough friends, but then they get in my life, and then I, have to do all that stuff.
Well, I mean, it's one of the hard things that I kind of realized as I've gotten older as well. Like you don't have that built-in network of like college friends, or like I'm in a fraternity, or you don't have, like as you get older, like you realize like, oh, I haven't talked to my best friend in 3 months or whatever like that, because life is happening. He just had a kid, and my puppy's sick, and whatever. Real life does happen, and there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you're making the effort to still like look. I also I built like an amazing studio, like where I don't have to leave the middle of nowhere where I live, and I say that as somebody who had a house in Key West for the past several years, where I would commute to work in Key West, and that's far, even, by flight. But like, the alternative is, I sit around and play video games all the time, and I haven't figured out how to get paid to do that yet. However, I had a concept about like dads playing like video games and being terrible at them, because I am pretty terrible at like I rage quit Elden Ring like 8 times. I'm like, why am I doing this? This isn't fun. You walk out of the first thing, and like this knight just hacks you up like instantly, like over and over again. You're like, what the like? Why people do this for fun? Like, how is this fun? Like, I'm not going to play Call of Duty because as soon as you spawn, like some guy shoots you in the face. I'm like, I'm not even alive yet, and I'm dead already. Like, why are we like? And this is why
there's an aspect to it that gets like that. That's for sure. Spawn camping is the worst, though. I mean, that's just bad behavior, in my opinion.
Bad form, right? I want to talk to their parents more than I want to be mad at them. Like, who taught you? Who raised you like this? Like, what kind of person?
I'm so bad at first-person shooter games. I mean, horrible. I can't stand them.
Me too.
See, the ones I like are like more like kind of like RPG, like Fallout. I love like Borderlands. I mean, technically they're first person shooters, but they're more like, role playing kind of like, stuff like that. So you have that additional component there where I like them. So like, I wish, like, I miss even games like Destiny when before they started ruining that, like just for the I would get to play online like with like my friends that were bouncers at one of the places my band played, and we would like have 3 a.m, like, just even when we weren't playing at the venue, like we'd still like we made friends, and we had that. I don't have that anymore. Like I don't have a squad. I need a squad. Help me be on my squad, guys. Find me on the Twitch and all that stuff. Spiffy Sean, pretty much anywhere you Google it or tell Grok to find me. I'm apparently very findable, even from weird Nazi apps. Why would you use Grok, by the way, Havok? I let it slide before, and I'm like,
here's the reason. I generally don't like AI in general, which is weird considering my job, but signed up for Twitter, X, whatever, for this, and wanted to get that verified badge, and well, Grok comes along with that, and so I use Grok because it's there and doesn't have credits, and I don't have to deal with other stuff, and it can be pretty amusing at times.
Grok, well,
yeah, actually, very, very amusing. It seems to me to be more able to flow through things that are controversial in nature without throwing up all over you.
I mean, that's one way of putting it. All right. I mean, that's Alex. What do you think? Is you're laughing along with me. So I'm like, all right, well, listen, I'm a guy that, with my voiceover work, like part of the, a lot of what I do, like with that is literally voice prompt things, like where like I might be the voice of like Facebook in India when you do Grok on there. Like, so a lot of like,
okay,
and a lot of that,
do it.
You got to do the in a world where
I do. That's what I'm saying. Like, like that was,
you got to do that guy.
That's of all the weird things. That's one of them. But like I do a really good like Sam Elliott. I do like all these like these like I've got a good broadcasting voice, but most of the work I get is not in my actual voice, if that makes sense. Which is a little bit humbling, but for the Facebook AI, it is. It's basically they want you to read a bunch of these like kind of sentences and stuff like that. Where what they're doing like voice training like models where like people ask you questions and you have to talk about whatever it is. And my voice is on 11 Labs and a couple things like that, like where you can literally hire my voice to talk about whatever you want to talk about. So I'm trying to like, at least give a head nod to our eventual robot overlords and say, look, I was one of the good guys. I was one of the guys. That's my voice. You're killing people in my voice. I was the guy that when you're like, you have to come with me to the camp. I'm like, I mean, not me.
Be one of those robot dogs with a machine gun on the back. It's like going to come for you.
Listen, if my dog wasn't sleeping on the couch, he should be way more of a killer than he is, but he's not.
No.
He's also a bigger social media star than I am, which is a little humbling, but he's a good boy.
Does he have his own socials?
No. And like, I went back and forth about this just because, I spent years making fun of people that, that made like, a cat Instagram and whatever, you know what I mean? Like, don't do that. Like, but then also, now I see the analytics and, he's way more marketable than I am. So, and he doesn't have thumbs, so he can't help me carry my equipment and stuff like that. So at least he can make himself useful.
Probably
a lot of treats.
Probably not that great at editing either, right?
He's not bad at that. Weirdly, I mean, for a puppy, I say puppy. He's almost 3, but like, still looks like a puppy. I got him because we both have like a baby face, and we don't look our age, and he gets it.
What kind of dog is he?
So he's a rescue, but we did one of those doggy DNA things on him. So he's a little more than half like pit terrier, which you can see in his face. And if you stalk me on my social media, you will see a lot of, and his name to the bridge is Commander Data, is my dog's name. So, and he's Commander Data for a couple of reasons. A, I'm a huge nerd. I'm a 90s kid who grew up with the next generation. He's got really, really like bright green eyes. So if you know anything about the actual Data, so that tracks. And my wife is actually a high school math teacher. So it's got this double meaning for her as a math teacher, where Data is sort of important for her as well. And then I got her into Star Trek, and then she loved Next Generation. Probably, I think, as far as the favorite series is I. It's my Star Trek.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, awesome.
He's also raised on Star Trek. Or, I mean, Next Generation. That was a thing when I was growing up.
I was also raised on Star Trek.
Yeah, you have to be.
It was Captain Kirk. Like, probably no shade on William Shatner or anything, but terrible, absolutely terrible. Just
a little goofy looking back.
Kirk, as far as the actor, Kirk, like as far as like I got.
Yes. Scotty, so we need to do the thing.
Well, I mean him as far as like just Shatner in general, but like, so there's a really decent documentary. I think it's on Netflix. It might be on Amazon Prime. Talking about like the first, like kind of the initial, like, the run and the kind of pushback they got from the studio, and like Roddenberry's original vision for Star Trek, and then how like the studio kind of almost wanted it to be like more campy, or they had to do that because they, Gene had a lot of ideas. And if you look back at the original series and know some of the stories, like a lot of the original series was a way for the, and really Star Trek through 55 years has been a way to sort of have like this social commentary that wasn't, like on the nose, like where you can say, oh no, this is happening in a galaxy far, far away. It has nothing to do with, how, segregated the 60s were. And that's definitely not why we're showing this like xenophobia towards these people that look different or act different. And, like, and if you're not a Star Trek fan and you understand, like, the first interracial kiss on television was Star Trek. And, and that was sort of by design, but it was, they weren't allowed to do that, or, because that just wasn't a thing back then. But a lot of those concepts you can get away with if you go, oh no, this is fantasy. This isn't like this has nothing to do with the current political environment or anything that's happening right now. This is, these guys are in a different dimension. So it's okay to be nice to, the black communications officer.
I will say this.
I mean, Kirk would bang green chicks. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, he was
with the
a coxman.
He was. The one thing that always saddened me, I just going to throw this one out here. If anyone from any Star Trek, production, etc., is listening, hey man, look, you're missing out on a massive opportunity. Why has nobody brought Tribbles back? The trouble with Tribbles, it's like, come on, those things were epically funny, cool, and problematic.
They saw him on one of the newer things.
They did.
I don't remember now.
And again, this is it's, and thank you guys for having this show where it's a safe place for me as just an absolute nerd who also is a pretend rock star for a living to find like a safe place where I can go, actually, guys, that was on the lower decks. That was one of the cartoons it was a later animated series for Star Trek where they brought the Tribbles back and like have
that's where I saw it.
Like,
yeah, but
that's I got nerd cred.
It could have been in Next Gen. It could have been in a Deep Space Nine would have been a perfect place to bring Tribbles back. Perfect.
For some reason, I think there was at least a reference at some point in Deep Space. And I think a lot of that was... listen, I get mad when people call him Captain Sisko. That's the level of Star Trek nerd I am. Like, he's a commander. All right, he's a Starbase guy. He was not a, they didn't even give him a ship till like season 6 or whatever it was. So like, come on. It's cool.
I didn't watch that one as much. I did watch some of that one. Of course, I watched Voyager. We all know why everybody watched Voyager.
7 of 9, baby. 7 of 9. Come on now.
See, first of all, I understand as 90s kids.
Don't even pretend. Come on.
No, that's okay. Listen, it's before porn on the internet was a thing. I guess it was a simpler time. I have a type. But I was a Dax person. Like I liked
all right.
Terry Farrell because I liked her in Back to School. I want to say Old School, but that was the Rodney Dangerfield movie in the 80s. It's just a cute brunette with like pretty eyes, but 7 of 9 wasn't even on Voyager until season 3, 4.
Something like that.
Yeah.
See again, like I was more of a Chakotay guy than a Tom Paris guy. I mean, if you're gonna, not really, but like, no, but like man. But I was a Next Generation guy. I think one of the first things I said to you guys was that Picard is the superior captain in the Star Trek universe, just across the board.
I'd actually have to agree with that, and I think it follows kind of
who I want to meet somebody who argues what captain.
No, because you think of like a naval captain, right? Which this is very similar to in nature, and they're well read, very well educated, very well spoken, and he fits all of those, right? And his character just exudes that, that, and you have confidence in what he says and how he says it, and how thoughtful he is about things, etc. Yeah, so I would agree in that aspect.
I do appreciate the fact that Roddenberry and more Rick Berman somehow figured out a way to, even in centuries from now, found a way to let Sir Patrick Stewart do Shakespeare during Star Trek, and he just knew it, just rattle it off. That's a well-run captain. You know what I mean? Like, those are the kind of guys I want commanding my ship. Like,
oh yeah, for sure.
Is it weird to you when you watch stuff like the old Dune movies and he's in it, and like, dude, that ain't Captain Picard.
There is,
like, I mean, he's Captain Picard, right?
I think it might actually be called King Arthur. It might be the original, like the OG, like movie about that, where he's just a knight, like in, like whatever. I'm like, Jean-Luc Picard is fucking whatever. Like, yeah. But it's hard because I've known Patrick Stewart for 40 years. I don't think he's aged at all. Somehow. I think he's 112 years old and still looks like, like he should be commanding the Stargazer. Thank you guys. I'm going to give all my nerd cred. Like, I'm going to hammer it on. Like, this guy,
he did a great Professor X too. I thought he was great in the X-Men movies.
Yeah. I mean, I was
kind of a role he filled too.
So, well, it's not to transition to different nerd culture, but Gandalf might be coming back to do some more X-Men stuff, which he announced, I think, on Colbert or whatever. And, I mean, Lord of the Rings is that's my number one, like, as a kid.
Don't rat me out, Havok.
Yeah, seriously.
Same. You, sir, you need to spend about 15 hours in front of a television.
Yeah, I know you probably didn't watch that episode, but yeah, I've never seen those movies.
Right. Yeah. I grew up with this.
Well, guys.
Right. No, I grew up with this. My father actually got me the books. And
I had the OG. I had the OG, like first edition, like
back in the
somewhere
70s.
in my family's cottage in Geneva on Lake, Ohio, exists the original paperback copies of The Lord of the Rings.
And I got the opportunity. So kind of, hey, look, yeah, being old, whatever, old people rule. But hey, I did get to go see the very first Lord of the Rings, the animated one, in a movie theater. I also got to see
like the Rankin Bass, like the old school, like
yes,
Frodo
like
of the Nine Fingers, like in the dumb
1976 or 77 or something. I also got to see
LX. Can we swear on this thing?
Got to see Star Wars. Yes,
do whatever you want. I'm not.
Hey, man,
I'm not
fuck
the
you,
editor guy.
Hey, fuck right off. Tell you earlier, I said this. Mark the tape, guys. This is why I told Alex to go fuck himself when we were talking about like old school Rankin Bass, terrible animated Lord of the Rings from before I was born. But I still in my head, my dumb ADHD brain, where it's like, why am I good at trivia? Because I can go Frodo of the Nine Fingers and the Ring of Doom.
Yeah, I mean,
you should read the books, LX.
It was really kind of cool though, because I had enjoyed the books, and I'm a kid, I'm a little kid, and I'm getting to go see this, and it was, back then it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. So
it's pretty cool.
Obviously,
man. I mean,
the new ones are I think they're probably the best screen adaptation of a literary work that has ever been put out. Period.
Slow down, Havok. This is a whole different podcast about my half-hour tirade about how Tom Bombadil and the Barrow Downs and a bunch of the things from the book didn't even make it. It's a 12-hour movie. You couldn't find at least a couple minutes to acknowledge these things in the book? Like, what are we doing here?
No, I agree, but again, like, I think
you just said it was the best adaptation ever, and
I think it is the best ever.
You got to pick
a lane. That doesn't mean it was perfect. There are no perfect ones, and the Dune ones, in my opinion, are absolutely barf. Sorry. The newer ones are the newer ones. The newer one is better, a lot better. But the what was it? They came out with the one in the 80s or whatever, and I was like, that was just terrible. I mean, it captured like, I don't know, 4 pages out of the book or something. Books.
Technology limitations. That's what they tell you.
No, it was time. It's all time is what it is. And the Lord of the Rings, they, I guess, a lot of back and forth. And I think he even self-funded quite a lot of it, because they were like, nobody's going to watch a 4-hour frickin' movie. Yeah, we will.
We'll watch the 4-hour movie, and then we will get the director's cut where I want the other hour and a half that you cut from the original 4-hour movie. Like, I think they're better at it now, but I think The Lord of the Rings was actually one of the weird catalysts where, well, 2 things. First of all, I think that was almost the predecessor to what we would refer to as binge watching now, where it's like, what do you mean you're going to sit down and watch 12 hours of it? Like, I got nothing going on a Sunday. Let's go.
Yep.
They do it with Star Wars too. They do it, like there's other like kind of like franchises where you could do that with. But that was the first time anybody had really kind of like lined it up the way they did. Listen, I'm one of those guys, like Peter Jackson did as great a job as anybody could do with that. I firmly believe. But because I was also like a Game of Thrones guy and watched George R.R. Martin just punt, just be like, oh my God, I wrote something that people like. And I'd be like, well, never mind. I'll just... That last season, really. I mean,
The last season was bad. That last episode was probably the worst finish to anything. Well, maybe Dexter beat it, but other than that, just like absolutely terrible.
No, because they can bring Dexter. They can bring Dexter back, and I think they tried to, right?
They did. Like, yeah.
Well, listen, there's a certain place in my heart for finales that are that bad where people are like, oh no, we gotta try this again. We there's literally new Game of Thrones offshoot on now that I heard is actually really good, by the way. I have not seen the Seven Kingdoms one that's out now, but I hear good things.
Yeah, weirdly. I haven't seen it either.
But I hear good things, which is better than I could say for that last episode of Game of Thrones. God damn.
Yeah, I mean, that first season, man, that first season was punchy. I mean, you just, after about, 6 episodes in, you're like, okay, I think I get it now. If I like anyone, they're dead or mutilated or both.
Listen, I hate to be at this point in my life and still have this level of trust issue, but I do because it was like 3 episodes in a Game of Thrones or whatever they get. I literally turned to my wife. I'm like, he's the main character. There's no way they're going, oh my God, they cut his head off. What the fuck? Oh my God.
Yeah.
And
I mean, there's something glorious to that in my eyes, but at the same time, man, it was a little like, you can't do that. That's not how these things work. You're breaking the formula, man.
I mean, well, so that, and then the Red Wedding are, and listen, the last season sucked all the dicks, but like to have a show that had, without argument, 2 of the all-time like best like television moments, 2 of the most talked about television moments in the history of television, especially in the 2000s where we don't consume media the way we used to, where we don't only have like 4 channels anymore. There's a lot of options out there. So to have a sort of a pop culture, like, oh my God, did you see the Red Wedding? Oh, and have that be something that sort of like, that's the water cooler conversation is that it's an accomplishment. I mean, not maybe not for the right reasons, but that's a whole different podcast. But like, people talked about that, about how, to your point, Havok, like how much that was not the formula, like, or how much like, oh, this was the star of the show and he's gone. Like, and we just started liking this guy. By season 3, every time like my wife would turn to me and go, he's I like that guy a lot. I'm like, well, he'll be dead in 2 episodes because if you like him, he's about to die. Like, and it was.
And he
I blame a plane crash on Grey's Anatomy where McSteamy in his character arc, like he just started not being a womanizing piece of shit, and then as soon as he was like, I want to just be a normal guy and I like you a lot, it was like, well, now your plane crashed. Also, the actual actor just passed away at like 53 years old, or like at ALS. Wow. Eric D.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Shout out, guys.
Yeah.
Shout out McSteamy.
He was the one that chose his own date, correct?
I don't know that. Did he?
Yeah, I think so. I want to say maybe not. Maybe I'm thinking of someone else. In fact, now I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I'm thinking of someone else. Man, sorry, my brain convoluted to another ALS person. That
listen, man. Hey, this is why we don't drink Jaeger bombs, because you get distracted, Havok. I mean, you sometimes you get a little confused, and that's fine.
It's the age,
man. Of your age. You get older, our minds don't work the same.
It's like your hard drive, right? It's been there.
Not my hard drive. Shut up. Away
for like 8 years, and
is the FBI
that little clicking sound, and you're like, and you go to access that one file, and it's like, I can't open this, it's corrupt, and you're like, that's my brain now.
That one file.
Yeah.
That one file. Is that the one file?
Well,
the one
that's the memories in there.
The one you keep accessing over and over again, Havok? Is that the file we're talking about? I mean, is
that container is very safe.
Wore the hard drive out? Like where the hard drive I can't read that anymore. It's just been pounded.
Oh,
Alex, I gotta ask this because this is just for me and not to interview you guys for a minute, but like, so you have a bunch of like Nintendo games behind you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like I was a kid, and I'm a Zelda guy, and so
Contra or Castlevania, pick one.
Contra, just because I knew the Konami code, and I thought how like baller I was that I could have 30 lives and get through that game.
If you're a baller, you could beat it without dying. That's real baller.
All right, I'm not trying to measure dicks on your podcast. I was just trying to make a thing like, I'm sorry, 9-year-old me.
Anyway, didn't mean to interrupt you.
I needed a little bit of up, down, and really, people, don't we all just need a little up, down, left, right. I mean, at the end of the day,
little cheat code, combo move.
I wish there was again, like not to be like all philosophical about it. Like, God, I wish there was a life hack. Like it was like, oh no, I know the thing. Up, down. I get the job. Yay. I probably a Contra guy. I love Castlevania. Like, it was the first like side scroll, like story game, I think, that existed back then. Ghosts and Goblins, actually, if you're going to do like a side scroll just for that.
That's just too difficult. It's infuriating.
That's too difficult, but you do, well, that's nuts.
Joust.
When you finish it, you got to do it again to actually get the real ending. That's the worst part about it.
It's not the worst part about it. Like Metroid was like that. Like, do you remember how excited you were when Samus took her thing off and it was like, oh my God, it's a chick the entire time. It's like the first like reveal, like everyone was like, oh my God, I was a chick the whole time I was killing things. Yeah, that wasn't a thing back then. This is way before, like, whatever. No politics. We're having too much fun.
Oh.
But like,
we didn't even get into the wrestling thing. I thought we were going to have to like, have to get into that and say, hey man, we need you to do a little color in this episode, brother. Do a little blizade to the fist over his head.
First of all, the fact that you sort of know Carney is, I mean, I was gonna say it's like, I want to say off-putting, but it's not, because it's 2026 and everybody knows that. But
the only reason I know that is because I live in Tampa, and driving a truck, I had to listen to Bubba all, like every day, because that's all that was on.
God, that was Bubba the Love Sponge?
That was, yes.
Like,
he's a horrible human being, but
no, I mean,
but when you're stuck in a vehicle for 12 hours a day, you need something to do.
Bang your wife, apparently, if you're a Bubba fan. I don't know if
right.
Does Havok know anything about what we're talking about, by the way? Havok, where you're,
I have no idea.
Not even a little bit.
I just want to make sure like how like down a rabbit hole we are right now about like
here's my wrestling
Hulk Hogan having sex with my wife. I just want to make sure that we are all on the same page here, because I want the metadata to I want this to pop on when your podcast go, Hulk Hogan has sex with wife, and that's the whatever. That's the clip that we have.
No.
Let me tell you something, brother.
But my wrestling knowledge is fairly limited, and it is very, very old. So we're talking like Andre the Giant, Shawn Michaels, and Hulk Hogan, people like that.
Did Hulk Hogan have sex with your wife as well?
No.
Oh.
No. I don't
You're
think
not
so.
nearly as
doesn't even
removed
know
from this conversation as you think you are, Havok. Just so you know, you're pretty close.
Okay.
Not my wife.
So Bubba the Love Sponge is a radio DJ in Tampa, and his best friend was Hulk Hogan, and apparently he let Hulk Hogan bang his wife and then videotape.
Well, apparently, there's
his,
actual footage. There's no alleged for this. This isn't a thing. We've all
and then
seen,
Bubba's producer took the tape and went to the media with it, supposedly, I guess. Allegedly.
So that part we can allegedly, where pretty sure Bubba was the guy that did it because Bubba's a worker, even though he's not a worker, but like Bubba knew this is going to get some headlines here.
Yeah, I was going to say that's pageantry right there.
Yeah.
The pomp and circumstances, but no. So I got one of my mentors, my mentor, the mentor, for me in wrestling is Samu, and if you know old wrestling, the Wild Samoans, it's Afa and Sika, and then eventually they brought in a third Samoan that was Samu. So those guys used to literally wrestle Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan and all those guys in the early 80s and stuff like that. So when I got to travel with Samu, a lot of the stories I learned were, and he was like 17 at that time. This is before like whatever. He was very Samoan, and they don't typically look 17. They pretty much are fully formed out of the womb.
Right.
But getting a chance to kind of hear those stories and learn from those stories is an experience that, so the reason I still try to be involved in wrestling is because it is above almost anything else, my passion. It's one of the few places as an awkward president of the Dungeons and Dragons Club in my high school, Star Trek The Next Generation, yell at you about not understanding first age Isildur things in Lord of the Rings, or the Tolkien bestiary that I also have somewhere. So that level of nerd, I guess. It's an area that I believe I have way more credibility than I do almost anywhere else. I am, and this is again for people listening of different generations. This is before it was okay to be a nerd, just so you know. So when I talk about this, and it seems like I'm saying this in some sort of like derogatory manner, I'm not. But back then, 30 years ago, they were shoving the president of the D&D club in the lockers. Now it's super cool. Thank you, Stranger Things and whatever. But now it's, a little more mainstream. Wrestling is one of those things that has been at points mainstream, that it's not. It's getting there again, but like my experience with wrestling was the mid 90s, really, as I was kind of a teenager, where it was like, that was The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin and that era, the Attitude Era of wrestling, when wrestling was mainstream popular. To Havok's point, that was the early 80s, where also that was kind of a wrestling boom. That was 15 years before that. That was Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant and Macho Man and all that, that era. But that's, that it's entertaining, it should be. But those were the people that, as I broke into the actual wrestling business, I was super excited to get to just meet, first of all, but then also kind of like learn from, experience those guys that had their experiences with Andre the Giant, and like, oh, I wrestled a 6-man with Andre and Hulk and Bruno Sammartino. It was me and my dad and my uncle against, 3 of the biggest icons ever in wrestling. And that's awesome to like, I think there's a certain obligation to sort of pass that on if you have the opportunity to do so. One of my music friends earlier in my career taught me about paying it forward. And, LX talked about, cover bands or music and entertainment in general. Like, there's a certain ego involved in a lot of that. So the initial kind of like thought is, screw that guy, give me the job, or he's not as good as I am, or he's not as, whatever. But it's a wrong premise. And it's a wrong premise because in most of these fields, podcasting included, by the way, art, and wrestling is art, is subjective. One of the reasons I love professional wrestling as much as I do, one of the reasons I love music as much as I do, is there is never going to be a time where I get off stage, or I get out of a wrestling ring or whatever, where I go, well, that was it. That was the one, guys. That was the best ever that's ever going to be ever in anything, because that's not that vibe. Like, so my background was sales, or like, real life things where it's like, cool, my job is to do mortgages or finance. So you have this is your sales goal. This is the sales quota. This is the record for the best salesperson that's ever done this ever. He did this. So then what happens when you beat that? Then what? What's like, where do you go from there? As the adult poster child for ADHD, I get bored. So one of the great things about wrestling, one of the reasons that it is my number one passion, my first love, is there's never going to be that like that was the one, because it's art and it is subjective. What I like as a wrestling fan might be vastly different than what somebody else likes as a wrestling fan. My Mount Rushmore, and we do this in wrestling a lot, like, who's your Mount Rushmore of, best wrestlers, or, whatever. And it's always different. It for me, it's different literally on a day-to-day basis, like depending on what I'm thinking about, like as far as like these are the guys. And for somebody who has like sort of that, like my brain, which, we call it neurodivergent is the actual word for it, if you're looking it up. But having like it, not a bad brain or whatever, like just a different brain, like it keeps me, wrestling keeps me engaged more than anything else ever has. Like video games I love video games because you can, a lot of games where it's like, you could choose to be just a piece of shit in your video game and like, that's your ending there. Or like, like I want to do Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 again and just be just a dick the entire time. Although I did get to bang Catherine. I did all right with that, but I slaughtered a village and the other girl didn't want to have sex with me because I slaughtered a village, but I thought I had to do that because, they were going to go tell people that we were there.
My burning question, how does somebody get into wrestling? Is it like, probably physical attributes have something to do with it? And do you have to know somebody, or are you just like knock on the door and say, yo, dog, let me in. I want to do this.
No, my mom dropped me on my head a lot when I was a kid. And I figured, again, find a way to get paid for it. No, I'm kidding. I mean, she did, but like, no. Well, back then it was different. Again, like wrestling was a lot more sort of guarded. You know what I mean? Like the carnival. Kind of like the behind the curtain thing wasn't as known as it is now. And people all the time, like, oh, wrestling's not real. And I always say this: and I will answer your question, but I want to make sure that as I do that, I sort of frame it in this way. If you play football, for example, and you're a running back and you hit the gap and you're running and you see a linebacker lining you up, he's about to lay you out, as linebackers do if you have a solid A-gap run. Now, you know that guy's about to hit you. You know it's coming. It doesn't make it any less real when he hits you. And that's sort of the simplistic analogy that I have for wrestling. As a guy who has a triple fused neck, turns out it is way more real than people think. But I was a fan, to your actual question, LX. I was as a kid, again, that was the kind of the wrestling boom growing up was, Shawn Michaels throwing Marty Jannetty through a barbershop window, and then, you're hooked. It's the live action soap opera that's, is sort of the predicate for like even UFC and all these like combat sports now that have, the Conor McGregors of the world that are literally out there cutting wrestling promos, but they're doing it for the exact same reason. They're doing it to get people to buy tickets to the show. They're doing it to be like, I love Conor McGregor. Or they're doing it to go, you know what, that guy's an asshole and I hate him. I can't wait to see him get knocked out. But you're still buying the pay-per-view. And that all comes from professional wrestling. That level of showmanship and presentation was all way before its time. So that's sort of what I fell in love with growing up. To that point, I started out as a fan, but in the early days of the internet, I used to write like a wrestling column for a website called Scoops Wrestling, and then for a website called 411 Wrestling. Like in the early days of wrestling and the internet, there were a few really big websites where a lot of people went. And this is even before like the WWF at the time or WCW even had like an internet presence. Like we were out there getting hundreds of thousands of like views because people that liked wrestling, there was nowhere else to really go for that. So I was at 16 years old as a high school student, like a fairly popular weekly columnist for wrestling. When I moved back to Pittsburgh, there was a local wrestling company that had a television show on. And this is like Saturday. It was like Shotgun Saturday Night for like the WWF. And then a company called ECW had their wrestling show that was also on Saturday nights. But after that, there was this local, regional wrestling company out of Pittsburgh that had a television show. And it turns out they were only about, a half hour away from where I was, staying with my grandma at the time. So I went to one of their shows, and I showed up, like an 18-year-old hustler back in the day, Havok, people of our generation that want to work. I showed up and was like, hey, I'm so-and-so. A couple of the wrestlers were aware of my existence because of my writing on the interwebs. I was like, hey, can I help? Can I be whatever? So, I did it the old school way, like your old paying your dues kind of way. Like I swept the floors for a couple of weeks. The next TV taping, they needed somebody to do like a Mean Gene Okerlund thing backstage where let me interview the wrestlers, and just, so now I'm on TV at 18 years old. Now I'm on TV interviewing, those guys or whatever like that. Then I did play-by-play and commentary. And I went to my undergrad, I went for broadcasting, and that was what I thought I was going to do back when I thought I had to figure out what I wanted to be when and if I grew up. Now it's a trap, I know. But like back then, you know, grandma was telling me to get a job and figure out a career and all that stuff. So I'll be the new Steelers play-by-play guy. Like most 18-year-olds, or they want to be on CSI. I mean, back then it was, you want to be on CSI or you want to be like, you know, whatever, you're a sports guy. At some point they realized that I am, as you said, Havok, you know, 6'1", 235, you know, at that point I was a baseball player in college. Like, you know, like I'm holding up, guys. Thank you for noticing. I know it's not just the hair. I'm, you know, the triple neck fusion and the lack of meniscus that I have, but I'm still doing okay.
Yeah, but the hair lends like so much credibility.
It's good for TV. I'm not going to lie. It does, you know, it does make me marketable in some circles. But back then, like it was, you know, do commentary. And then they were like, hey, I was hanging out for like training sessions or whatever like that, you know, hey, Sean, come in here and, you know, here, you know, you're a big guy. Be our tackling dummy for training for the next 6 months. And that's pretty much what it was. It was pretty much some of the best wrestlers to come out of Pittsburgh. A few of them in particular took pity on me or needed a guy that will let them keep dropping them on their head. And I was eager to do so. But I learned how to wrestle that way. And then got an opportunity to, you know, go to West Virginia and, you know, wrestle in a battle royal and all that kind of stuff. Like, as you know, again, this is a sort of the evolution of wrestling back then, where the business was a little more guarded, a little more protected, where, you know, you didn't have new people training that shouldn't be training. I was lucky enough to kind of break in that way. And that was back to the Samoan sort of thing. Like I was lucky enough to get the opportunity to drive, you know, because they're, you know, old school legends. They don't want to drive. They've been doing it. They've been traveling the road for 30 years. Hey kid, here's the keys. Take me to the show in Ohio and, you know, I'll talk to the promoter and get you, you know, get you a match like early. You know, you can open the show. You can be the opening guy or whatever like that. But you get a chance to ride along with these guys that have the Andre the Giant stories or the Hulk Hogan stories or the business used to be this way stories, and then you get a chance to kind of like, to put that into like very trial by fire, very much like an actual like, oh, we're doing the thing that you just talked about. So that was how I broke into the business. It's not like that anymore, but you know, that's one of the things where like, and you probably know this, Havok, like you're a music guy and LX was talking about death metal or whatever, you know, like again, being subjective, like my dad would, you know, big like Zeppelin, like Santana, like very like 60s and 70s stuff that our dads listened to. And he would go, you know, when I was listening to stuff I grew up on, like Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains, he'd be like, that's not even music anymore. You know, just like old wrestlers, like, these kids aren't even wrestling anymore. It's fucking, they're just, But I think every generation has that exact argument. Like we're like, what the fuck? These kids are listening to, it's not even music anymore. What is that? You know, because we grew up on, you know.
Guilty. I find myself doing that.
Guilty.
Right?
I have to admit though, you know, there has been a decline in general. I think when I look at music, from like, I love, you know, hippie music. I love the old psychedelic music, you know, old Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, stuff like this. But I also, you know, I'm a big, you know, I guess I'm a fan of bands. I'm a fan of musicians. Where I start to lose interest is when it's a person singing in a bunch of electronic drum beats added in and electronic mixing and sampling and things of that nature, where I go, yeah, that's very, very talented editing.
What about Nine Inch Nails?
But what about them?
Just saying.
Well,
that's pretty much it. Just one dude.
Yeah, and I've never been a Nin fan.
I mean, so was like, I mean, it's not like
never been a huge Nin fan, but like Nirvana was good. Stone Pimple Toilets were pretty okay, and
you love Alice in Chains. I know you do.
No,
every time we get together, you play them on your Spotify
it's the
nonstop.
Voice. My
man got to play with Stone Temple Pilots. Gosh, this would have been like 2011. We were young, and we opened for those guys at like the amphitheater in Pittsburgh. And Weiland was sober, and he was terrible. Like, you had to be like, yeah, he was so much better when he was all whacked out, But but to your point, you're saying you're saying the same thing. It's like, music is, it's all whatever. And
well, name one band that has come out in the last 10 years that plays like Zeppelin.
Greta Van Fleet, like literally, like
yeah, they're almost exactly like Led Zeppelin.
Right? Exactly,
Greta Van Fleet. Yeah.
Oh, Fleet. Okay, I don't know them, so I enjoy that kind of stuff.
Don't ask if you're asking for music for the past 10 years and you don't know the actual band that said the first thing people are like.
Every time I turn something on the radio, it's not that. So that's my take on it, right? It's not like I guess, yeah, maybe I am just old fuddy.
No, don't you dare. Havok, sir, don't you dare feel like you are perpetuating any stereotype about what I literally just made a point about. No, sir, you're right. Your music is the best music. And these goddamn kids aren't even... They don't even play instruments anymore, Havok. They don't even play their own instruments anymore.
That I don't like. I generally don't like that. I just don't. Don't get me wrong. Like we're gonna go to like some EDM thing with our oldest son, and I can vibe on that. I can dig on it, right? Under certain circumstances, it becomes very good.
You have to be really high. You have to be really. There's drugs. That's going to be.
There you go. So
it's cool, kids. We're not advocating. I'm just saying if you want to consume certain things, there are ways to make that more enjoyable.
Yes.
The guy
and
who
so I'm very open. I like to think musically certain things don't touch my ears, but like I like classical music. I like classic rock. I like rock and roll. I like jazz. To an extent, when it gets discordious and stuff, my brain doesn't pick that up and make it make sense. And I get the musical talent there, but I can't really focus on it. I guess it's too.
But do you though?
Weird,
because here's the thing. Like you would look at somebody like Taylor Swift, and you would say, well, she's, whatever. She's not playing her, whatever. Even though, like I had this argument all the time where people go, well, that's not they're not the best musicians. Well, no, the best musicians are playing jazz and shit that nobody likes. It doesn't right. The best musicians are not the most marketable musicians. It's why Britney Spears was a thing. I mean,
no, but you can look at things like Jimmy Page, and that flips it on, or Dimebag Darrell.
Do you remember the day Britney Spears turned 18? I bet you do. I bet you, sir. We're in the trust tree here on this podcast, sir. I want you to understand this is a safe place for us to talk about.
I honestly don't.
I was about the same age, so it was a little different for me. But like she was. Hit Me Baby One More Time. She wasn't even 18 years old at that point. So like, do you think Britney Spears is the greatest musician, of the 90s? Like she wasn't. She sold a lot of records. It doesn't, again, that's the subjectivity of music or wrestling or art in general. So you're not wrong, being the crotchety old man that you just revealed yourself to be.
That's not.
We're not breaking any ground on your.
No, it's not. It's not breaking
I
news.
remember back when I know, I do too, Dad. It's fine. I remember too.
Now hold that flashlight steady.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, boomer. Sorry. I'm sorry. Get off my lawn.
I'm not a boomer, though. I'm not a boomer. I'm Gen.
Well,
Gen
you're
X.
boomer adjacent, sir. Nice rants, by the way, about how much better things used to be back in your day. Tell me more.
Well,
tell me more, Dad.
Okay. I will say this. Another thing that I really enjoy about back in my day was the lack of electronics.
Unfortunately for all of us, it's going to be all AI music in the next 5 to 10 years, and it's already infiltrating things now.
And some of it's actually pretty dang good.
It is until you start thinking about it, and you're like, man, that's crap.
I mean, it might be just because social media is what it is, but I vaguely remember hearing a story a few months ago, where people were like, oh, hey, Jim Bob and the fuckheads, this band that everybody's like, these guys are great. And it turns out they're not real people. It's all just a computer generated, churned out a couple country songs or whatever it was, where it's these guys are great. When are they going to tour? I'm like, I bet they're not going to tour.
Yep.
But again, that goes back to the thing I kind of started this with, where people consume music differently, just art in general. Like I said, I grew up where there was 4 channels, and you can be, on a wrestling show at 1:00 in the morning on Saturday, and I had more people watching that show than primetime shows have now, because there's so many different, I'm watching podcasts on YouTube now. I'm not watching NBC or whatever there's no more TGI Friday lineup. There's no there's no Seinfeld or Friends or those things where it's you have to tune in and watch these shows because, tomorrow at the office, we're going to be talking about this, where, oh my God, Ross and Rachel, whatever it was. but it was way more of a shared experience back then. And I'm not saying it's better or worse. It is admittedly just different. The way people consume entertainment and arts on a macro level is just, it's so substantially different that we're not going to ever have, Taylor Swift, I think transcends that, but, she is pretty inevitable, as far as who she was. And I tried to hate Taylor Swift for years. I tried out loud to hate her. If you look at my old social media, it's, how she was manufactured in a lab by record executives, and everything she did was just carefully cultivated, and she's, they made her in a lab, and now kind of seeing who'd have thought Taylor Swift would be the shining beacon of, musical authenticity, or I'm going to own my own art, and all of these fights that Taylor Swift has had that are sort of for the greater good of music. And, that was sort of the wrestling thing we were talking about a little bit, where it's she got to a point where she can finally sort of give back, pay the business back, the people that made her, the people that afforded her the opportunity to be who she is. Now you could pay it forward. It's one of the things I try to tell younger wrestlers, other musicians. And by the way, I don't call myself a musician because of the Jimmy Pages of the world, the actual musicians. I'm a guy
if you use your voice and or play an instrument, then that qualifies you as a musician. And I do want to make
one point any more than me throwing a fucking football in my backyard makes me an NFL quarterback, Havok.
It doesn't make you an NFL quarterback, but it does make you someone that plays football. There's the difference, right? You're
right. I scored 4 touchdowns in one game at Polk High. I did score 4 touchdowns in one game.
There you go. So one point of clarification. I don't necessarily like some of the music. I'm not a big fan of I don't avoid listening to Taylor Swift, but I don't seek it out.
You are
I don't listen to it. But hold on. I recognize talent. but I can also say that's not my cup of tea. And that's where I stand. I don't say it's trash. I try not to do that, right? Instead, I'm not a fan of it. I don't like it. I have these preferences in music because, look, at the end of the day, these are obviously talented people. They wouldn't be. But you also
can't pick out a single artist in the past decade of new content, right? Not one.
Probably 2 decades for me.
See,
a new artist with new. I mean, yeah, I probably can some country music stars, but I don't know, auto tuners.
Here's the weird thing for me. Country music now is 90s alternative. Like if you actually think about it, like listen to a Florida Georgia song and then listen to a Three Doors Down song right after it and tell me which one, like, you know what I mean? It's so, but again, that's the evolution, that's music evolving as a whole. But like,
oh yeah.
So like I'm slightly more familiar with newer music just because I have to be because of my job. But like, I don't listen to anything besides like pop rocks or like alt nation or whatever like that. Like I grew up on, like, I think the music you like when you're 15 years old is sort of the music that shapes who you are, like, through your life, because inevitably that's the first time you are just aware of sort of what you like and what's available, and then as newer things come out, you go, well, that's not what I like. And listen, I'm playing a little devil's advocate. I'm also literally the same person. They're like, this music is bullshit. But like, understanding that, the point originally was like my dad had the same argument with me, like as a kid, where I was listening to the stuff on the radio in the 90s, and he's like, wow, what is this? What is this? He's not even playing on, but I am, from a entertainer standpoint, I am, and you might appreciate this, Havok, as a man of a certain age. I am way more of a David Lee Roth than I would be a Sammy Hagar. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So I said all the time, it's like, so David is by far, in my opinion, probably one of the best frontmen of all time. Great performer.
Yeah.
Not a great musician. Not even a great singer, really. And then you got a guy like Sammy Hagar, who is a great guitar player, amazing vocalist. And Sammy can play all of Dave's songs. Dave can't sing Sammy's songs. And that is sort of my entertainer versus musician argument that I make all the time. So when people call me a musician, I go, no. People like actually work at this. Like, I'm a guy who can sing a little bit, and I can jump around the stage and do what I do. But that's from me being in my underwear with a microphone in front of 10,000 people. Like, I'm just like, that aspect of it doesn't like dent me the way it does a lot of musicians who might be amazing musicians, but might not be good performers. Might be the kind of guy who just has to sit in the back and, do their thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, so if I'm 80% performer and 20% musician, what I need to do is complement myself with guys that are 80% musician and maybe 20% performer. Because if they're looking at me and I'm dancing on the bar, singing Miley Cyrus Party in the USA, the only way that makes sense is if I've got a great band with me that can give some semblance of like musical credibility to that performance. And you need both of those things. And none's not even better than the other, but you need both. Thank you, bud.
Absolutely perfect, because I mean, that's essentially what the original Van Halen was, a front man and then a really excellent set of musicians behind them.
And he's just shredding, behind him. But it worked.
Yep.
And this is before, right now in the 80s, and where they had like when Van Halen had keyboards and stuff like that. I don't know how much of a purist you are. Like, not the 5150 like Van Halen, but they changed. They evolved. If
they did. They did.
We all can't be California girls, guys. I mean, we want to.
No, apparently not.
No. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Now.
Do it. We need more guys, middle-aged white guys in jean shorts playing at their bar up the road. The world needs more of that. Please. Always jorts. Always jorts, always like a weird like affliction t-shirt. Like 2026, by the way, we're doing this lugging in like Marshall half stacks, like old school, like big ass amps, like to play for like 70 people like at their neighborhood bar. And like as I continue to travel and play music and stuff like that, like our equipment gets smaller and smaller because it's more shit we have to like lug around. So now it's like we just have these pedals now that make it sound like an amp, and we just plug this in, and we don't have to bring the whole thing, and But again, musicians also fear change a lot, or I think people in general, Havok. Not to, I feel like I'm piling on at this point, but like
no, I'm big on fearing change. I don't like change.
Nobody does. That's a normal psychological thing, bud. Nobody is super pumped about like, oh, cool, the thing that I'm comfortable with and familiar with, whatever like that. Now that's not the thing anymore. Cool. I mean, and as you get older, like LX and I were talking about, as we become more antisocial in our crotchety old man phase of our life, it's largely, in my experience, based around that. Like, I don't want to jump through hoops to like learn. I don't want to I don't want to do it your way. My way's fine. Shut up. But it's a lot of that sort of battling against that, where it's like, you brought up AI, or you brought up like these new technology where, the Foo Fighters are one of my favorite bands, and they had a documentary where Dave Grohl like purposely, even with new technology, wanted to record like on old school, like 8-track, like tape to tape, like, analog, sort of thing for their record. And that was controversial. And this is, the early aughts, because, Pro Tools existed, or like, MacBooks, and, there's easier and, objectively ways to make things sound better that existed. The technology is in place where, this is before like the actual like auto tune and all the things that we are aware of now, but that stuff was around. You didn't have to, play like an imperfect, kind of thing, and then try to like shine it up and do whatever they got. But he, as sort of that old school guy, wanted to have a more, in his opinion, a more authentic presentation of the music that they were playing. Listen, he's sold millions more records than I've sold. So you have to at some point go, it's not right or wrong. He didn't want to embrace that newer kind of method of writing an album that he was kind of clinging to, or showing homage to, or like, just tipping his hat to, the people that came before him that had to do it that way. But he's also good enough that was part of his ego, where like he wanted to kind of almost like challenge himself to go, look, yeah, I know all these, Pro Tools and all these things exist where we can just, clean this up and make it, we could bang this out, whatever like that. I want to do it the way Jimmy Page did it. I want to do it the way that the Beatles did it. I want to do it the way, like I want to compare this art that I'm putting out to that art that I loved and grew up on and was shaped by. So to it's a long-winded way to say, hey, Havok, don't go changing, buddy. You don't have to. You know.
I'm not gonna. Don't worry about it.
I mean, I know you're not gonna, but I was just trying to tell you, you don't have to.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the validation.
Resistance to change is why these old guys are spending all this money on these vintage Gibsons and Fenders and stuff. They just
right.
Well, you could buy a much better guitar for a lot less money.
There's also you could download the plugin that sounds literally exactly like. If I go like, I want Jimmy Page's guitar on Zeppelin 4 this and hit the tone, like I could download that exact guitar profile into my Helix pedal and step on stage, hit that button, and my guitar will sound like Jimmy Page's guitar. I can't play it like he does, but it's going to sound like it's going to sound like Jimmy Page's guitar played by a guy who doesn't know how to play guitar. But it's going to sound, nobody's going to go, oh, the tone is off. No, it's exactly like, that's the technology part of it.
But so there's also been, at least it's been a while since I did go into one, but in like getting this gear, etc. LX turned me on to Sweetwater, and great place, by the way.
Tom calls me every other day still. I haven't bought anything from them in 4 years, and they still are like, hey, what's up? I just want to check in with you guys. But how's that X18 working out for you? I'm like, it's still good, man. I don't need another mixer. Thank you.
Right. Yeah. So, but it's still good, guys. But one thing that's interesting,
I will say that.
Absolutely. Follow through, follow up, everything. And then, of course,
they send you candy, I think, with their shit. They send you candy? They still do that? All right.
So, but I noticed a resurgence of tubed heads, right? And that's old technology, right? The head unit for your amp, right? I've noticed that there's a resurgence.
That really went away. Like, so I worked at Guitar Center for a minute after the mortgage business went away. I had a good severance package and some time on my hands. So again, the band thing was just supposed to be to get free beer and meet girls. But I had some time off, so I literally took a part-time job at Guitar Center. So what we saw even back then, this is like 2009, a lot of the amps that we're selling were still very much old school tube amps and stuff like that. And even today, like if people are buying amps, like actual like physical amps still, they typically want something that has like that sort of vintage setup, or at least like a modeling amp. It used to be where you could kind of change the settings on there to do so. Tube amps are a little more expensive. Tube amps are a little harder to maintain, especially again, and this is back when modeling amps were sort of new, which were static amps, so no tubes, but you could basically change the knobs and go like, I want, a heavier tone, or I want like, a bluesy, and you can go through the knobs on the amp itself, like instead of having to dial in like that specific tone. And this is back when, Jimmy Page had one pretty distinct sound, because that was where that was that Les Paul, that was that Marshall stack, and that was the sound. But now, like, you have so many different like presentations or profiles for music, especially in like a cover band like I do, where like, you're doing, a Led Zeppelin song, but then I'm doing like a Hootie and the Blowfish song after that, where very different profiles as far as what you need out of like your guitar and everything like that. So I think that flexibility is important, but I think for musicians or like songwriters or people that are looking for their sort of sound, so to speak, but those are people that are writing in one sort of specific voice for what they are trying to create, which is amazing. But you're absolutely right. There's still that, like, we used to call them tone chasers. So if you ever watch, if you're as big of a nerd as I am, Metalopolis, like Death Clock. So they literally talk about that on it's a cartoon on Adult Swim. It's an amazing thing that like literally it reminded me of my own band, where you have these different personalities and, but they talk about like chasing that tone. And I've had guitar players that are so kind of old school are so like kind of married to that concept of that like kind of authentic guitar sound. And that doesn't exist without a tube amp, without like that Marshall stack, or without a Les Paul, like this specific kind of things, or even like the original Ibanez tube, literally the pedals, it's called a tube screamer, which the entire pedal is designed to just maximize that sort of like that crunch that comes only from from heating up those old school, like a Fender Blues Deluxe or a Marshall stack with the tubes. Like there are very specific, like vintage, like sounds that are like even now, 50 years later are just synonymous. You could say that tone and people know what you're talking about because guys like Jimmy Page made that so iconic, in that setup. And there's, again, that doesn't exist now, but even as, the modeling amps and the technology is around to replicate that, it's, it's not the real thing. And there is something to be said for that as well.
It's close. Well, I had a friend that was, very, very talented guitar player and played for a grindcore band, but
Jesus,
that's what he liked. But it's funny because this was in the late 80s, I think, early 90s, and the guy
I don't know what late 80s grindcore sounds like, and now I actually kind of want to.
Oh, there's some good stuff out there. Yeah, there is. But he had this obsession to try and figure out how to replicate Kerry King's sound. So Slayer, the lead guitars for Slayer. Wow. And he just was like, I cannot get this one right. I cannot get the right amount of distortion, the right amount of compression, everything about it I can't get it to line up.
I'm literally in my head, I'm like a Schecter 7-string, like, you know what I mean? I'm like in my head, I'm like, where would I start? It'd be like a 7-string guitar, which if you don't know, guitars usually have 6 strings on them. The 7-string has like a little bit of a deeper, kind of thing. Kerry King, Zakk Wylde, a lot of those guys were the first people to put like heavier strings on their guitar, and they did that because it would give a lower end kind of like a little more like the fullness, that low end kind of crunch, and that was new back then. I mean, listen, we're an hour and a half in, and I'm going to go down a Black Sabbath rabbit hole if you want to talk about original guitar tone. Like, we have a lot of different podcasts we can do, boys. I'll see you guys tomorrow, same time. We'll
we can do it if you want. This has been a great one.
No, you guys have been great. Like, thank you, and and I know we're past bedtimes and everything. Yeah, but no, you're absolutely right about like Kerry King and like, but that was innovative back then. That was a pioneer, like sort of like mindset when it came to like that. I know you're not a Nine Inch Nails guy, but one of the reasons that Trent Reznor was so iconic in the 90s is he was one of the first people that was like how do I replicate this without without that production, and that was that was newer technology for him, but that hadn't existed before that. I mean, Prince did it a little bit where he was one of the first people to kind of like play all of the instruments on his own like albums. Dave Grohl did that for the first Foo Fighters album where he played everything and then basically hired a band after that. But those were new things, in the 80s, 90s, kind of thing. So like, but that's sort of the evolution of music as a whole. But but that I remember having those conversations about like that heavier kind of, how do you get that crunch? Like, how does that exist? And then like, you had specific guitars, you had Ibanez, you had Schecters, you had these guitars that were almost like made to be like metal guitars. You know what I mean? Yeah, the Warlock. Yeah, exactly. The Flying V. I've got like Jägermeister has. I have literally it's like a Dean. I think made it, but it was like a Dean, like a flying. Like they have I have a Jägermeister guitar that they sent me that they're like, play this. I'm like, there's no way for me to play like, brown-eyed girl on on a flying V. It's just not gonna, people are gonna think I'm insane. But if you're looking for that sound, I mean, that's how to do it. And those were the pioneers for that.
Yep. Nice,
man. Good pull.
All right. So thank you very much for joining us. I think we've kind of expired our time.
If anybody is still listening, God bless you. Thank you for.
They will be. They love us. And they're going to love you. So we asked you before, we're going to ask you now. So throughout our lives, there's an individual or a historic figure, could be a sixth grade science teacher, whoever, but someone that comes along that makes a profound and lasting impact in our lives. And we like to give our guests the ability to shout out that person.
I know you did try to forget. No, because as soon as you brought it back up, I went, oh crap, we got down so many different rabbit holes that, like, when you brought it up to me 90 minutes ago, I sort of had one like kind of direction with that in mind. And then the way you brought it up reminds me of a guy named Chris Van Vliet, who does a wrestling podcast, and he does a great job with it. And one of the things he does with his guests is he talks about gratitude at the end of his show, where he talks about how big of a role gratitude plays in his life. And he asks his guests, like, what are 3 things you're grateful for? And it's kind of the one, like you said, it's kind of the one question that he asks. And even in your question, I'm already down another rabbit hole of my brain. So let me first and foremost thank you guys for having me on and for going through some weird journey with my clearly different brain. One of the reasons I love music.
I had a blast.
I did too.
Appreciate you coming.
Thank you guys. I appreciate that. I wanted to talk more about Star Trek or Starfleet Academy and how much it's pissing on Gene Roddenberry's grave and all that stuff. We didn't get to 9 of the things that we actually talked about. Welcome to my life, where it's like I was supposed to do, this contract for whatever that I just remembered that I didn't do. So it's so weird. So it's a subjective question, but it's also because I have been shaped by so many different things, and because of the way, having kind of a like an autistic, ADHD brain, and having that superpower and sort of processing things the way that I've always kind of processed things. And I didn't know any of this stuff until recently. I was ADHD before it was cool. But now, kind of understanding a little more about, having a neurodivergent brain and how, I may process things differently, but not wrong or not right, just different. And, so a lot of what I try to talk about through whatever I'm rambling on about, and I do this on stage too, by the way, which is one of the, it became part of my stage show where it's more interactive and more like crowd work and doing almost like stand-up comedy between occasionally remembering to play a song, and but it's a different presentation, but it's a very authentic to me presentation. Some people like it, some people don't, but that's how subjective music is. So my influences, so since we're finishing on music, I'll do this one. But I also have wrestling influences. I have, all that stuff. But one of the things we talked about during this show was the concept of paying it forward. I learned that from a young lady called Laura Lee. Laura Lee, is one of the best cover band, and she writes her own music too. She's one of the best musicians and one of the best people that I ever had the opportunity to meet as a aspiring cover band. And we're based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and there's not really a big music scene here for what we do. There's dad bands. There's the guys that will throw in the jorts and make their all their family and friends come out the 3 or 4 times a year that they go out and play Mustang Sally or whatever whatever they play. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's a different thing than I would like to make a living doing this, find a way to get paid for it. So Laura Lee was one of the first people that I met out in Dewey Beach. Like, so if you know anything about the East Coast of the United States, like there's a corridor out there where in the summertime you get a bunch of people from like Philly and Wilmington and all these like even Pittsburgh, like everybody goes to the beach. And the beach out there is it's Rehoboth Beach, Dewey Beach, Bethany Beach, Fenwick Beach, and like Ocean City, Maryland. So you have like an hour like kind of like stretch of beachfront, like everything like that, and a bunch of amazing bars, and they all have live music out there. So it was an opportunity to go and do this. So I went out there, saw Laura Lee's band, Laura Lee and Trip Fabulous, if you want to see them. I think they're actually literally down in Key West right now playing at a place that I play down there called Sloppy Joe's. So, but Laura Lee was one of the first bands that I saw where, you see somebody kind of doing like, oh, next level. It's like, like I want to play in the NFL, and then you actually go see like Peyton Manning throw a ball and you go, oh shit. Oh, hey. So she was doing it, and she was just, amazing. Just first of all, just a beautiful person, like gorgeous girl, amazing singer, amazing songwriter, amazing frontman, like everything that, like, if I want to be like that when I grow up, like that would be what I want to be. Also one of the kindest people, because she was one of the first people that taught me the concept, as we talked about a little earlier, about paying it forward, where Laura Lee was somebody who let my band open for her and her band at like one of the biggest like bars in the country, like one of the most popular, like the highest profile, like kind of places ever. And this might've been like 2005, 2006, I want to say, like, but that was somebody who was comfortable enough with where she was and where her band was to not feel like another band is quote unquote competition. And there's a lot of ego involved in professional wrestling, a lot of ego involved in music, just as a performer. There's a certain degree of like insecurity that just kind of comes with what we do. And I didn't realize this was everybody. I thought it was just me, where for the thousands and literal thousands of shows that I've played in my entire life, before every one of those shows, I go through this, like, if you like watch like Dewey Cox, like Walk Hard, like you go through this thing where like before you go on stage, you got to go through like all this, like all the things that you got to like, but it's that you go through this, they're going to hate me. I'm going to sound bad. I'm going to suck. They're going to fire me. I can't believe it's an imposter syndrome thing, really, because you're out there sort of playing a character on stage. And she was so comfortable with who she was that it almost like put me at ease. And then the concept of like, we're not competition. Like a rising, tide helps all the ships. It doesn't help me to talk badly about, another wrestler or another band or whatever like that. It helps if we're helping each other, that helps each other. And so, anytime, and now I'm at a point with wrestling specifically where that was always like my biggest passion. Like music is great. And I love, playing music. Like literally I had a gig yesterday where I played at an old folks home, like a legitimate old folks home. Just went out there and played, Elvis or whatever I was playing for.
That's a place I need to end up. Live shows.
No,
yeah.
but like,
Let's do it.
Certainly not,
all these guys with these newfangled music coming in here playing that crap.
Listen, the funniest thing in the world is me asking a bunch of 85-year-olds like, hey guys, what do you want to hear? And having them, it's an Alzheimer's unit. So some of them don't remember their names, let alone, but music is one of those weird things where even people that have like Alzheimer's or whatever, like music, like I do this with like Special Olympics where like very like learning disabled people, nonverbal people that don't talk will sing, like I got a chance to teach like a life skills music class for like kids that are like severely like developmentally disabled. And we would do, boom clackers and like stuff like that, like where like the music, it was something that it would resonate with them where they were more like communicative and whatever, with what was happening there. And I don't, like back to Laura Lee as my answer. Cause again, I know we're
awesome.
We're rambling on. But Laura Lee was like one of the people that taught me like, do that. If you have the opportunity, to kind of help to give somebody else a hand on the way up. And I learned this in wrestling too, because a lot of the people that I worked with in wrestling, when I broke in the late 90s were guys that were like big stars in the 80s that were still, a little past their prime, maybe a little, banged up, but they were still out there working like smaller shows and independent shows. So, they were back on the way down, maybe in career wise. So I had an opportunity to sort of like learn from those guys who had been, kind of working on top. And then somebody like Laura Lee, who is in my opinion, still the greatest like cover band, like frontman performer that I've ever met. But she taught me that. Like she was nice enough to jump up on stage on one of my shows and sort of, in the wrestling business, we call it giving the rub. Like, we're going to give the kid the rub, like where it's like, like Hulk Hogan's going to wrestle the up and comer, you know what I mean? Like, even if the up and comer doesn't beat Hulk Hogan, just him being
in
like
the ring.
on the same, in the same ring with that guy elevates, the other guy. And she taught me that. And that's something that I've not only obviously learned in music, but I've tried to translate that mindset across everything I do. And for somebody who does as many different things as I do, the modern day Renaissance man that I am, the last of the old school, if you will. You'll appreciate that, Havok. That's literally my wrestling gimmick is I am the last of the old school, Spiffy Sean Styles. And it's because I'm the last of that generation that came into the business that way, that is still around, because most of those guys are retiring and all that stuff. So, Laura Lee, which is somebody that
Awesome.
Nobody would know, but please look her up and her band if you are around the East Coast of the Northeast of America, or traveling to Key West and happen to be there at a week that her and her band are there. I can't recommend them enough. And thank you guys for supporting just the arts in general. And thank you guys for going down all of these rabbit holes with me for twice as long as you thought we were going to go.
Absolutely.
Remember when you guys were like, well, we typically do like a 45 minute podcast. We button it up here about, 45 or so. Remember that?
We do 45 to 90 is typically where we are. So this isn't that far over, but it is.
So part two this. I mean, we could do this like where you can literally like, and tune in next week for the exciting conclusion of this guy rambling on about 85 different things.
It's a wonderful thing. So
I'm still mad we didn't talk about Starfleet Academy. I want to yell so bad about it.
we could certainly do that. So last piece. What do you got going on? Where can people find you?
Well, you were nice enough to bring up my OnlyFans early in the podcast here, Havok. Thank you for that, and thank you for thinking I have nice feet. I do appreciate that. I do have a lot of student loans, so thank you for that support. The link is going to just all my links .com is just going to be my name, Spiffy Sean Styles. You can type that in pretty much anywhere on the internet. SpiffySeanStyles.com. The band is called Walk of Shame. We do a great rock band karaoke thing that sort of morphed out of what I guess then would have been like our COVID shows, because we were all locked up and trying to figure out a way to still connect. And then me, as the introverted, extroverted person that I am, was losing my mind, not having that that sort of dopamine kind of that kind of fix for me, like where as much as I want to be antisocial, also I have this inherent like sort of desire to like be a people pleaser. So trying to like resolve that duality is sort of the journey that I've been on for most of my adult life. But like COVID was one of the things where I learned how to do like a good live stream and make the audio sound good. And I did all of that because I was watching 9-year-olds play Minecraft and they were better at streaming than I was. I figured there's, you can learn a couple things, but like, so a lot of what we do is born from that, where people were able to just on the fly, like request songs and like, hey, here's our Venmo, shoot us $20 and oh my God, hey, Sheila from blah, blah, blah wants to hear, whatever, a Pearl Jam song. Here you go. And then have that sort of in real time kind of thing. So I do have all the socials. Find me everywhere, please. I do a wrestling podcast that we just started. So again, I am brand spanking new at this, but I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but I like to talk. My grandma used to tell me when I was a kid that you talk just to hear your own voice. And it turns out my grandmother was right as always. I do.
Nothing wrong with being able to
every once in a while I stumble into, and entertain anything like this. And yeah, I meet guys like you that have an amazing sort of foundation for me to come in like the wrecking ball that I am to try to disrupt. So thank you guys for that. And you're seriously, I wish more podcast experiences were this comfortable, organic. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, like you said, you asked one question at the end, and we talked for nearly 2 hours, and legitimately, there are things that we didn't talk about that we could absolutely spend another 2 hours talking. And that, I believe, guys, is a testament to what a great show you have. And thank you so much for letting me have the opportunity to come here and ramble on for a little while. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. All right, everybody. You know where to find us. Thank you for giving us some of your time. If you liked us, thumbs up. If not, give us a thumbs down. Leave a comment. Tell us we suck. I don't care. Throw a comment in there if you have an idea for a guest, a topic, or a show, whatever the case may be. And remember, wherever you are, whenever you're watching this, have an amazing day.
See you, everybody.